I'm speaking with D. Dalton Bennett, who is a journalist who's been working in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, working with Sons of Hedin, a non-profit organization dedicated to enhancing global awareness of Greater Central Asia through the use of journalism and online social collaboration. And you've obviously had a very busy and very dangerous day, Dalton. You were under fire in front of the presidential palace today, were you not?
Yes, I was. So I had gone to what was supposedly supposed to be a press. It was going to be a press conference, and then police didn't allow that to occur. And with that, basically, protesters fought back. Pushed back the police, and then from there, they fought back the Spetsnaz, the Kyrgyz special forces. And upon doing so, they commandeered 2 military trucks that were transports armored vehicles along with all their weapons. At that point, the crowd was nearly, I'd say, about 2,000 people, and they were very, very, very angry, but at the same time emboldened. So they drove from this area that's, it's not in the downtown by any means, and people marched into the city, and when they marched into the city, they were met by interior security forces that were much better trained than the previous police, and at the same time, more and more protesters showed up. And at that point, they had a water cannon along with tear gas. So they were firing tear gas and water cannons everywhere. So, and there was a struggle to take over Alato Square, which is the center square. It's right near the White House where the president of Kyrgyzstan is located. So this went back and forth. In eventually, after the people secured the square, they immediately went to the White House, which is a huge symbolic act politically. I mean, they could have gone to the parliament, they could have gone anywhere else. All the government buildings within Kyrgyzstan, they're located in a central area, but they immediately chose the president's building. So they stormed. They came up to the gate of the White House. There were signs outside in Russian and in Kyrgyz that said, "We will use live ammunition if you come over the fence." So one of the individuals that had taken one of the military transports drove the military transport into the fence, eventually breaking open the fence, and they started shooting rubber bullets. Things once it got really bad, people were amassed outside. They're shooting rubber bullets, tear gas, I mean, you name it. And then, about 3:20-ish, 3:30-ish, a huge group of people were outside of the fence, of this iron rod fence, and all of a sudden you just hear this loud pop, 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 pop noise, and everybody's looking around, everybody's really startled, and at first everybody thought it was rubber bullets, and it was clear that some were rubber bullets, but they had mixed live ammunition in at the same time, and I looked over to my right, and there was a young man who's maybe about 18 to 20 years old, and he lifted his hands up, one of his hands up to the sky, and you could see a straight hole through his wrist, and then he looked at it, and right when he moved it, it just started gushing blood, and the crowd pushed back. So after I ran, I went to the next block over, and I ended up at the next closest this government building, and it turned out to be the hospital. It was the Bishkek Cardiac Hospital, and it's literally a block away. It's from the White House. It's the closest hospital to the White House. And as I was walking up, demonstrators were carrying people that had been shot. There was 4 people that I saw go in when I first went in. And then once I went in the building, I was the only foreign journalist in the building. I went inside, and I had 4 people. 3 people were dead when I went in, and one person there was no way he'd live. He was shot in the stomach, and it was a gruesome sight. One man, he had been shot from an upward direction, and the bullet had hit him in the back of his head. He was dressed pretty normally. He I really doubt he really was doing anything. I mean, he had a tie on and nice shoes. He was an older man, maybe about 50 or so, but he was dead on arrival. That's what they said. And so after that happened, there's rumors that there were snipers, and we went back out of the hospital after we tried to get confirmation from the amount of dead from the head of the hospital, but he refused to give an amount. But the nurses who were scared, it was utter fear and terror. I mean, some of them were just frozen, and they couldn't say anything. They just couldn't even utter anything to you. I mean, they just didn't make any sense. I mean, it was total chaos. And I went back out with one or two other journalists, and when I was out, they were shooting from the rooftops, and they're shooting for the rooftops, and by this point, there's 4,000 plus people. I mean, there was a lot of people. There's people everywhere. And they'd fought back the police. Now all the police and the interior security were inside of the White House where they were waiting before, but they had snipers, and all of a sudden all the protesters, at this point it turned into a mob. I mean, an angry bunch of people. Blood was on. They wanted payback, and they were just scaling these buildings, running around on the roofs looking for any type of snipers that were in the area. And at that point, I was right before that. I was standing on the corner, I wanted to see close because it was a bit of calm, and then all of a sudden they just started opening up within the crowd, and less than 30 feet in front of me, a man was shot in the leg, and I fell on the ground. I was totally covered in mud, but just glad to be alive. But.
And Dalton Bennett, again, is a journalist who's been living in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, who witnessed the siege of the White House. The president himself, who came into power in a popular uprising in 2005, known as the Tulip Revolution, Kurmanbek Bakiev, is now, the tables have turned on him. He does have an authoritarian past, I understand. In an earlier incident, there were some people killed. What do you know of these latest reports coming from the opposition that say they've taken over the government? I believe also one of the TV networks.
I don't know how much government is left to take over. I mean, there are people in the streets looting. I mean, it's a mob. They've looted two very popular shopping centers, Vafa stores. A huge shopping center has been looted. I mean, there are just men running wild. I mean, when they went into the Parliament building, they looted it. They're coming out with fax machines, televisions, computers, you name it. I mean, at this point, maybe they do have power, but it's only nominally. I mean, there's no way that they have any of these people under control because they're not. They're just angry, and there's no real. It seems my impression is that there's no. I mean, there may be somebody in the next couple of days that can step up, but at the moment, nobody really seems to be in power, and there's just a general sense of chaos and confusion, and most importantly, uncertainty. And I really think it's a product of just the profound violence. I mean, it's unparalleled, just the response and how quickly things turned deadly. I mean, within 5 hours, people were being killed. Last time I checked, 42 confirmed dead by the Ministry of Health in Kyrgyzstan.